them good girls, straight masterpieces. Stylin', wildin', living it up in the city. Got Chuck's on with Saint Laurent, gotta kiss myself.
Hello kids, today we are talking about economic systems. We are talking about money. In other words, we could be talking about cash, we could be talking about Skrilla, we are talking about money today. So, we are talking about economics today. And economics is all about the idea of scarcity. Okay? Scarcity. And scarcity is all about having limited resources. So economics seeks to answer the basic question of how to deal with scarcity. The law of scarcity. The law of scarcity states that society has limited resources, has a limited amount of things. So basically, everything in this earth is limited. And you hear people talking about, I'm going to get mine, I got to get mine, I got to get what's good for me, right? That's because there's not enough for everybody to have everything they want. There's a limited amount. That is scarcity. You have needs, but you also have wants. If you want to get something more, you have to go out there and get it, right? It's not always that way. Economics tells us, how do governments regulate their resources? So, everybody wants money. Everybody wants money. But economics tells us, how do governments deal with that? An economic system describes how a country solves the problem of scarcity, not having enough of something. An economic system must answer three questions. What to produce? What kinds of goods and services should we make? How we produce it? And for whom are we producing it? Who gets to have these things? So in every economic system that we talk about, we are asking, what do we produce to get money? How do we produce it to get money? For whom do we produce it to get money? And there are four ways that we are going to discover that people have dealt with how are we going to get our supplies, our resources throughout the world. Traditional, command, market, and mixed. That's for number 5. Traditional, command, market, and mixed. All right, let's talk about traditional economy. A traditional economy is based on customs and beliefs. So a traditional economy will be people will always make what they have always made and do the same work that their parents did. And the way in which people trade in this is called bartering, trading without using money. So this is based on customs and beliefs, and the exchange of goods is done through bartering. So bartering is like what you do in the lunchroom. You know, when you've got your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but you want Tommy's Oreos. Well, Tommy doesn't want your peanut butter and sandwich, so you have to sweeten the deal, and you give him your peanut butter and jelly sandwich and your pudding, and then he gives you your Oreos. Maybe you think that's a fair trade, maybe not, but you're not using money. You're using things to trade. That is bartering. So, what do people produce in a traditional economy? Whatever it is that they've always produced. People follow their customs and what their ancestors made. How do people produce these things? They grow them, they make them the same way their ancestors did. People in their villages need them, so that's who is produced. So this is typically not done in America. This is typically villages in Africa and in South America, places in India, the Aborigines, which are like Native Americans in America that are in Australia. So the Aborigines. So this is kind of not done in your modern day societies. Next type of economy. We have the command system. This is where the government makes all the economic decisions and owns most of the property. So in a command system, the government plans groups that determine things such as the prices of goods and the wages of workers. So the government decides everything in a command system. This system has not been very successful, and more countries are abandoning it. Okay, so in a command economy, the government decides what to produce, the government decides who will make these things, and the government decides who they will trade with. The next type of economy is market economy. This is not based on the government. This is based on private citizens. And how much to produce is based on supply and demand. Most of the resources are owned by private citizens. Economic decisions are based on free enterprise, competition between companies. Important economic questions are not answered by the government but by individuals. Government does not tell a business what to do or what to charge. You can make that decision on your own. So what is supply and demand? We're going to be talking about that more and more as we discover economics, but supply and demand is simply this. If you have a little bit of something, whatever it is, let's take gold for instance. Gold is very rare. It's hard to find, and it's beautiful, and people love it. So since it is beautiful, people want it. That is demand. But the supply is very low. So as the demand goes up and the supply goes down, the price goes up. But then look at something like milk. Milk, there's a ton of it. There's supply everywhere. The demand is probably lower for milk because the supply is so high, so the price goes down. If you don't understand that, that's okay. We'll talk about it. So what to produce? The businesses decide everything in a market economy. Who decides how to produce it? The businesses do. Who are the goods and services produced for? Consumers. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because you think that you are living in a market society, in a market economy. The United States is close, but here's the thing. In a truly free market economy, the government would not be involved at all. There would be no laws to protect workers from unfair bosses, and that would allow bosses to pay workers whatever they wanted, 5-10 cents an hour, to slave away, and then they could charge much less, therefore selling more. And there would be no rules to make sure that credit cards were properly protected, meaning people could then borrow, never pay anything back, and it wouldn't matter. Many societies have chosen to have some rules to protect consumers, workers, and businesses. This is called a mixed economy. A mixed economy is where rules reduce the freedoms that businesses have, but they also protect the workers and consumers. It goes back to that idea that everybody wants money. Everybody wants to get what they consider theirs. Everybody is greedy. Therefore, in a mixed economy, everybody's also protected from one another. You can't have a pure free market society because it would be chaos. People would be charging whatever they wanted. They would be hurting the poor, not paying people what they deserved, stuff like that. So in a mixed economy, you have a little bit of market plus a little bit of government command mixed. Like I said, there are no pure command or market economies. The businesses own most of the resources and determine what and how to produce, but the government regulates certain industries. So in a mixed economy, businesses decide what to produce, and businesses decide how to produce it, but the government does regulate some things, and they are producing them for consumers. So why have most societies chosen to have a mixed economy? Because they need to protect each other from the consumers need to be protected from the businesses, and the businesses need to be protected from one another. So fair competition is the idea. Okay, that's a little bit of economy, and I hope you enjoyed your lecture for today. By the way, the song that played at the beginning, if you can tell me who sang that song and what it's called, I will give you extra credit.